My name is Emily Carter, and the night my mother told me I was the strong one, I realized she never meant it as a compliment. She meant I was the one who could survive being forgotten. I was 32 years old, standing in the rain outside Mercy Regional Hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma, wearing scrubs stained with somebody else's blood and coffee that had gone cold 6 hours earlier. I'd just finished a 14-hour shift in the ER. My feet felt like concrete blocks, my lower back was screaming, and my phone had 17 missed calls from my younger brother, Tyler. 17. Not because he was worried about me, because he needed money. Again. I sat in my car with the windshield wipers smearing water across the glass while lightning cracked somewhere over the highway. My phone buzzed one more time. Tyler, Mom said you're off work now. Call me ASAP. Not, how are you? Not, you okay? Not even, please. Just ASAP. Like I was customer support. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes 5 seconds longer than I should have. That kind of tired changes you. It strips you down to the bones. Makes you see things clearer than rest ever could. And in that parking lot, with thunder shaking the sky and my phone vibrating like a damn alarm bell, I finally understood something that had taken me 32 years to learn. My family didn't love me because I was Elena. They loved me because I fixed things. Bills, crises, mistakes, consequences. I was the duct tape daughter, the emergency contact, the backup wallet, the she'll figure it out kid. And the second I stopped fixing things, everything exploded. I grew up in a 2-bedroom house on the north side of Tulsa, with peeling paint, a chain-link fence, and parents who treated responsibility like a game of hot potato. Whoever could avoid it longest won. My father, Ron Brooks, worked construction when he felt like it. Some months he made good money. Other months he sat in the garage drinking Busch Light and talking about how the economy was screwing hard-working men. My mother, Linda, worked part-time at a beauty supply store and full-time defending my brother from consequences. Tyler was younger than me by 4 years and somehow managed to fail upward his entire life. At 16, he crashed Mom's car drunk. My father called it boys being boys. At 19, Tyler got arrested for bouncing checks at a casino outside Muskogee. My mother cried in court like he was the victim. At 24, Tyler borrowed money from everybody in the family and vanished to Las Vegas with a girl named Kelsey, who sold astrology candles on Instagram. 3 months later, he was back home, sleeping on Mom's couch, eating frozen burritos, and talking about entrepreneurship. Meanwhile, I was the kid paying her own bills at 17. I worked at a diner before school and studied anatomy flashcards during lunch breaks. I got scholarships, took loans, survived nursing school mostly on caffeine and stubbornness. Nobody helped. Not because they couldn't, because they knew I'd survive anyway. That was the thing about being the capable child. People start treating your strength like community property. The first time my mother asked me for money was 22. Just until Friday, baby. It was $300 for utilities. Friday turned into 6 months. Then another emergency happened. Then Tyler needed help. Then Dad hurt his shoulder. Then the roof leaked. Then Tyler's truck got repossessed. Then Mom's credit card maxed out. And somehow, every disaster in that family ended with my debit card sliding across a table. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Families help each other, right? That's what Mom always said. Blood is blood, Alina. Funny how blood only flowed one direction in that family. Toward Tyler, toward chaos, toward need, never toward me.
When I graduated nursing school, my parents missed the ceremony because Tyler got into a fight outside a bar in Broken Arrow the night before. I crossed the stage alone. Everybody else had flowers and balloons and loud families screaming from the bleachers. I had silence. Well, not complete silence. A professor named Mrs. Delaney hugged me afterward and whispered, "Some people don't understand what they're lucky enough to have." I smiled like I was okay, then cried in my Honda Civic for 40 minutes. Still showed up to Tyler's court hearing 3 days later, because that's what I did. I showed up. Every single time. By the time I turned 30, I was making decent money at Mercy Regional. Not rich, just stable. Stable enough that everybody suddenly treated me like a walking ATM with feelings optional. Mom called me every Tuesday, not to ask how I was doing, to explain a new problem. Tyler needed rent money. Dad needed help with insurance. The electric bill was behind. The dog needed surgery. It never ended. And every time I hesitated, Mom would hit me with the same line. "You know your brother's not as strong as you." At first, hearing that made me proud. Then, one day, it made me tired. Then, eventually, it made me angry. Because strength wasn't something I was born with. It was something I was forced into. Nobody asked if I wanted to carry everybody. They just kept loading weight on my back until I forgot I was allowed to put it down. Then came the engagement dinner. That's where the whole thing cracked open. Tyler got engaged to a woman named Savannah after dating her for 8 months. Savannah was loud, beautiful, dramatic, and somehow always filming TikToks no matter what was happening around her. They invited the whole family to a steakhouse downtown. I arrived straight from work, still smelling faintly like antiseptic and exhaustion. Tyler stood up grinning when I walked in. "There's my favorite sister." He was my only sister. That should have been my first clue. Dinner started normal enough. Steaks, drinks, Savannah showing everybody venue photos on her phone. Then Tyler tapped his glass with a fork. "I got an announcement." Everybody quieted. He looked directly at me. "Sis, we need your help." There it was, not even disguised. Savannah reached for his hand dramatically.
"The wedding venue needs another deposit," she said softly. "And Tyler said family always takes care of each other." I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because my body didn't know what else to do. "How much?" Tyler avoided eye contact. 10 grand. The table went silent. My mother immediately jumped in. "You make good money, Alina." Dad nodded like this was common sense. Savannah looked at me with big, hopeful eyes, already assuming the answer was yes. $10,000, like they were asking to borrow a lawnmower. I stared at Tyler for a long time. "You still owe me $4,000 from Vegas." "That was different." "How?" "It was an investment." I blinked. "You gambled it away." Savannah's expression tightened immediately. Tyler leaned back in his chair. "Why you always gotta bring up old stuff?" Old stuff. Like years of carrying him financially was just ancient history now. Mom touched my arm gently. "Baby, this wedding means a lot to him." You know what's crazy? Nobody at that table asked what meant a lot to me. Not one person. Not my long shifts, not the overtime, not the nights I came home too exhausted to eat, not the student loans I was still paying, nothing. Because in their minds, my life existed to stabilize Tyler's. I looked around the table and saw it all at once. The pattern. Dad waiting silently because he assumed I'd cave eventually. Mom already spending my money in her head. Tyler convinced he deserved rescue because rescue had always arrived before. Savannah treating me like a rich aunt in a Hallmark movie. and suddenly I couldn't breathe in that restaurant anymore. I stood up slowly. "I'm not giving you $10,000. Silence. Tyler laughed once like I was joking. Then he realized I wasn't. Mom's face fell immediately. "Elena?" "No." Tyler's jaw tightened. "You seriously gonna let your own brother struggle?" I looked him dead in the eye. "You've been struggling on purpose for 15 years. That landed hard. Savannah shifted uncomfortably. Dad finally spoke. "Watch your tone." My tone. Amazing how the truth always becomes tone when people don't like hearing it. I grabbed my purse. "I love you guys, but I'm done financing everybody's life." Mom looked horrified. "After everything we did for you?" I stopped walking. That sentence, that damn sentence, "after everything we did for you." I turned slowly. "What exactly did you do for me?" Nobody answered, because they couldn't. I paid for college, I paid my own rent, I bought my first car myself. I built my life from scratch while dragging half the family behind me like a busted trailer. Tyler scoffed. "Wow, money changed you." "No," I said quietly. "Exhaustion did." Then I walked out. Rain hammered the parking lot while I sat in my car shaking, not from guilt, from adrenaline, because for the first time in my life, I had said no. And deep down, I knew my family wasn't going to forgive me for it, not because of the money, because I broke the system. The next morning, Mom called 11 times before 9 a.m. Then came the texts. "Your brother cried all night. You embarrassed us. Savannah's family think we're trash now. Please fix this." Fix this. Always me. Always. I muted the conversation and went to work. By lunch, Tyler posted a passive-aggressive quote on Facebook. "Sometimes strangers support your dreams more than family." 247 likes. I almost admired the hustle. 3 days later, Dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. He stood outside my door with his arms crossed like an angry foreman. "You're acting selfish." I stayed calm. "No, I'm acting tired. You got money now and think you're better than everybody." "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "If I was broke, nobody in this family would call me selfish for not helping." He stared at me. Then came the line I'll never forget. "Family owes family." No, parents owe children. Adults owe accountability. Nobody owes endless self-sacrifice just because they share DNA. But I was too emotionally drained to explain that to a man who had spent his entire life confusing authority with love. "I'm not discussing this anymore." Dad stepped closer. "You're gonna regret turning your back on blood." I looked him straight in the eye. "You already taught me what happens when family only calls when they need something." That shut him up for exactly 3 seconds. Then he muttered something under his breath and walked away. I watched him leave from my apartment window, and for the first time, I didn't run after him. That night, Tyler sent me a Venmo request for $10,000 with the caption, "Guess this is what your love costs." I stared at it for a full minute. Then I requested him for the $4,000 he still owed me. Caption, "Guess accountability works both ways." 10 seconds later, my phone exploded. Tyler calling, screaming, Mom crying in the background, Savannah yelling something about ruining the wedding energy. I hung up, blocked all 3 numbers, then sat on my couch in total silence while my heart pounded like a drum. You want to know the weirdest part? The silence felt peaceful. Painful, but peaceful. Like setting down luggage you forgot you were carrying. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't even close. Because 2 weeks later, I came home from a night shift and found Tyler's truck parked in my apartment spot. And that's when things got truly insane.
Tyler was sitting on the hood of his truck smoking a cigarette like he owned the parking lot, like he owned me. It was 7:12 in the morning. I'd been awake almost 24 hours after a trauma shift that ended with a teenage kid bleeding out in room 4 while his mother screamed his name into the hallway walls. I was too tired for games, too tired for manipulation, too tired to carry another grown man who confused guilt with love. Tyler flicked ash onto the pavement when I got out of my car. There she is. I locked my doors slowly and kept my bag over my shoulder. How did you get the gate code? Mom gave it to you. Of course she did. Boundaries in my family lasted about as long as cheap batteries. I blocked your number for a reason. Yeah, dramatic as hell, by the way. I started walking toward my building. He followed me immediately. Elena, come on, just talk to me. I'm exhausted. You think I'm not stressed? He snapped. Do you know how embarrassing this has been for me? I actually stopped walking. Embarrassing. Not the debt, not the lying, not asking his sister for $10,000 at a steakhouse in front of strangers. No, the embarrassing part was me saying no. I laughed once under my breath. Tyler's expression hardened instantly. You think this is funny? No, I said quietly. I think it's predictable. He ran hand through his hair and lowered his voice like he was trying on maturity for size. Look, Savannah's parents are paying for most of the wedding now. That's good. But her dad keeps making comments, acting like I can't provide. I stared at him. And that's my problem how? Because you made me look weak. There it was. Not hurt, not sadness. Ego. The whole thing had always been ego. I unlocked my apartment door. Tyler shoved his boot against it before I could close it. That tiny movement changed everything. Every nerve in my body went cold. Move your foot. For a second, I saw something in his face I'd never noticed before. Not desperation, entitlement, pure entitlement. Like my space, my money, my peace all belonged to him by default. Then he pushed the door wider and walked into my apartment, like he still had access, like boundaries were optional if he wanted something badly enough. I closed the door slowly behind us, not because I was calm, because I was trying very hard not to explode. Tyler looked around my apartment while shaking his head. Must be nice. There was bitterness dripping off every word. You got the nice couch, the big TV, fancy coffee machine. I blinked at him. You mean the stuff I worked for? You always do that. Do what? Act superior. I stared at my younger brother standing in my living room wearing wrinkled jeans and blaming me for his own failures at 28 years old. And suddenly I saw him clearly. Not as my baby brother, not as somebody I needed to save, just a grown man who built his life on the assumption somebody else would clean up after him. Tyler, I said carefully, you need to leave. No. One word. Flat. Confident. Like he thought he still had power here. My exhaustion vanished instantly. Every ER shift, every ignored boundary, every emergency transfer of money, every manipulative phone call, it all hit at once. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up my phone. What are you doing? Calling the police. His entire posture changed. You're serious right now? You walked into my apartment after I told you not to. We're family. Then act like it. Silence cracked between us. Heavy. Dangerous. Tyler stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him anymore. Honestly, I barely recognized myself. Because the old Elena would have backed down by now. The old Elena would have apologized for having boundaries. The old Elena would have handed him money just to keep the peace. But peace bought with self-destruction isn't peace, it's surrender. Tyler scoffed finally and backed toward the door. You know what? Forget it. I plan to. He opened the door hard enough to rattle the frame. You think you're better than everybody now because you wear scrubs and make money? No, I said. I think I finally got tired of being used. He slammed the door behind him so hard one of my picture frames tilted sideways on the wall. Then silence. Real silence. I stood there, breathing hard in the middle of my apartment. My hands were shaking, not because I was scared, because part of me still felt guilty. That's the thing nobody tells you about toxic families. Even when you're right, your nervous system still acts like you're doing something wrong. I locked the deadbolt. Then I added a chair under the doorknob anyway. Not because Tyler was dangerous, because I suddenly realized I didn't trust anybody in my family to respect boundaries anymore. I slept for 4 hours. When I woke up, my phone looked like a war zone. 23 missed calls, 14 texts, a Facebook post from Savannah that said, "Crazy how some women become heartless once they get money." The comments were brutal.
Not toward her. Toward me. Family comes first. She sounds selfish. Nurses think they're saints. Funny part? Half those people had borrowed money from somebody before. Everybody loves generosity until the generous person gets tired. Then suddenly they're arrogant, cold, changed. Mom left the longest voicemail. Elena, your brother is devastated. Savannah's crying. Her parents think we raised him badly. Why are you doing this to us? Doing this to us. Like I was the tornado, not the person who spent 15 years holding the roof down while everybody else danced in the storm. I deleted the voicemail halfway through. Then I called in sick for the first time in almost a year. Not because of Tyler, because I was emotionally running on fumes. I spent the afternoon cleaning my apartment in total silence. Laundry, dishes, vacuuming, tiny tasks, normal tasks, grounding tasks. At around 5 p.m., there was a knock at my door. 3 soft taps. I froze instantly, then looked through the peephole. Mom. She stood there clutching her purse with both hands like a nervous church lady waiting for bad news. I almost didn't open the door, but some old instinct still pulled at me. I cracked it halfway. What? Her eyes immediately filled with tears. God, my mother could weaponize tears like Navy SEALs use night vision. Elena, please. I stayed quiet. She looked smaller than usual somehow. Older, too. I just want my family back. That sentence almost got me. Almost. Then I remembered something. Families aren't hostages. If somebody only feels like family when you're sacrificing yourself for them, that's not love. That's dependency wearing a disguise. You had me, I said softly. You just kept handing me to Tyler. Mom flinched like I slapped her. That's not fair. No? I asked quietly. Who came to my nursing graduation? Silence. Who helped me with tuition? Nothing. Who asked how I was doing after my double shifts? She looked down. And there it was, the truth sitting between us like broken glass. Not traumatic, not loud, just undeniable. Mom wiped at her eyes quickly. You know your brother needs more support. I felt something inside me finally snap clean in half. Not loudly, not violently, just permanently. And who decided I didn't? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No answer. Because there wasn't one. For 32 years, everybody in that family saw my competence and mistook it for invincibility. But strong people break too, quietly, privately, in parked cars after midnight shifts, in grocery store aisles while calculating bills,
in apartments they paid for alone while everybody else called them selfish. Mom reached for my hand. I stepped back. That hurt her. I saw it immediately, but not as much as being emotionally abandoned for decades hurt me. I can't keep doing this. Doing what? Saving everybody while nobody notices I'm drowning. Her face crumpled. Elena. No, Mom, listen to me this time. My voice shook, not from fear, from finally telling the truth out loud. I am tired. I am so unbelievably tired. Every time my phone rings, I feel anxiety now. Every time Tyler has a problem, everybody looks at me like it's automatically mine to fix. I work myself into the ground while he keeps making reckless decisions because deep down, he thinks somebody will always rescue him. Mom started crying harder. I didn't stop. Do you know what happened at work last night? A 17-year-old boy died while I was trying to keep him alive. I held pressure on his chest for 40 minutes, Mom. 40! Then I walked to my car exhausted out of my mind, and your son was waiting in my parking lot angry that I won't fund his wedding. Her mouth trembled open. I could actually see the guilt hitting her in real time. But guilt and change aren't the same thing. Lots of people feel bad. Very few actually behave differently afterward. You make me feel like I failed as a mother, she whispered. I looked at her for a long moment, then finally said the thing I'd swallowed my whole life. You failed me as a daughter. That one landed deep. She physically stepped backward, like truth has weight. And maybe it does. Mom stared at me with tears running down both cheeks. I cried too, because despite everything, I loved her. That's the ugly part. People think boundaries mean you stop loving somebody. Usually, it means you finally start loving yourself too. I don't hate you, I whispered. Then why does this feel like goodbye? Because it was. Not forever, maybe, but definitely the version of us where I existed to carry everyone else. That version was dead. I need space. Mom nodded slowly, like each movement hurt. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something small. My old high school graduation photo, the wallet-sized one, edges bent from years of being carried around. You know I was proud of you, right? She whispered, and damn it, that almost broke me, because maybe she was proud, in her own damaged way, but pride without support feels a lot like abandonment when you're the kid living through it. I took the photo carefully. Mom touched my cheek once, then walked away down the hallway crying quietly to herself. I locked the door after she left, then slid down against it and cried harder than I had in years. Not because I regretted setting boundaries, because grieving people who are still alive is its own kind of heartbreak. A week later, Savannah called off the wedding. Not because of me, because Tyler got caught messaging another woman on Snapchat 2 months before the ceremony. Apparently, accountability finally caught him too. He showed up drunk at my apartment the night she left him, banging on my door at midnight. "You think you're better than us?" he yelled through the hallway. I didn't open it, didn't respond, just called security. As they escorted him out, I heard him scream something that stayed with me for months. "You think you're better than us." The crazy thing, I never thought I was better. I just finally realized I deserved peace too. 3 months later, I started therapy. 6 months later, I stopped answering guilt calls completely. 9 months later, I took my first vacation without sending anybody money before I left. 1 year later, I bought a small house with a blue front door and a garden in the backyard. Mom visited once, by herself. No Tyler, no manipulation. We drank coffee quietly at my kitchen table while sunlight came through the windows. Before she left, she looked around my house and said softly, You built all this alone." I smiled a little. "No," I said, "I built it after I stopped carrying everyone else." She cried again, but differently this time. Not manipulative, just sad, maybe regretful too. Tyler still blames me for a lot of things, probably always will. That's okay. Some people need villains because admitting the truth would force them to change. And the truth is simple. I was never selfish for setting boundaries. I just realized I deserved peace too. If you've spent your whole life being the strong one, listen carefully. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to stop setting yourself on fire just because other people got comfortable being warm. And the people who truly love you, though, they won't disappear when the money stops. They'll finally learn how to show up empty-handed and stay anyway.